You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to round 5 of the Eternal Tournament Series. I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, Truedawn, and we are about to hop into another pretty cool matchup. These are actually some decks we haven't seen any of today. You want to hit this FTS Witching deck, Truedawn? I mean, this is pretty exciting.
This actually looks very familiar to a deck I was playing on stream a lot this week. I was trying to make Witching Hour work, and I figured out that you could actually play it in a 3-color deck if you don't play double time anything. Although Juaspas has elected to play Voltapraxis, which kind of breaks that rule, so we'll see if he ends up paying cost as mana, which, as like I was, which is why I had to change it. So the deck is actually very powerful. You have a very potent endgame. Witching Hour alongside Xenoblast is very good. Scrap Tank is in there. Assembly Line, Tortoise Spiders. All those things reduce Witching Hour's cost by a lot at a time. Assembly Line is 4. Granite Drone is 2. Thermalist is coming back, reducing it. Scrap Tank's 3. And Tortoise Spiders is usually a bunch. So you do get into the range where you can cast Witching Hour. Although just like the cursory look at Juaspas's mana base, he is built in a way where he is not going to be able to Witching Hour as soon as builds I played would, because he has too many non-shadow sources. So getting the 6 influence as early as possible is going to be very hard for him.
Yeah, I think that really is kind of the killer with the Witching Hour decks. You know, if Witching Hour cost 4 shadow instead of 6, I have a feeling we would be seeing a lot more of it even after the nerf. But it is still a very cool deck. I'm super excited. I've honestly only seen Witching Hour brought once or twice ever in decks. And so I've never really seen the card honestly hit the table outside of in draft. So this should be super exciting. On the other side of the table, we have Peaceful on Armory, and this is actually just a Rakano Armory build, not the typical Justice Fire Shadow that we're used to seeing. So no Smuggler Stash in here. Streamlining it a little bit more for the inclusion of what looks like Oni Quartermaster, which is definitely an interesting card, but one I feel like could certainly have a place in an Armory-style deck.
Yeah, it's certainly very awkward when you have Harsh Rule in your deck. I don't love that, but I do like that Oni Quartermaster has kind of replaces Smuggler Stash. It is that like engine that allows you to draw cards and actually get ahead, giving a color combination that doesn't usually have the ability to draw cards, the ability to draw cards. And cutting Shadow becomes a lot easier after this deck essentially lost Steward of the Past. Making it double Shadow just makes it too hard to cast. You can't reasonably play it. So once you lose Steward of the Past, you're kind of down to like Smuggler Stash is the reason to play Shadow, and Quarry. And Quarry's a good cantrip, but that's like not really a reason to play color. And Smuggler Stash is like not as good as you would think. I'd been cutting down to 1 in my Armory decks. So there's definitely a lot of payoff for just cutting that color, just being consistent 2 colors. And we'll see how that works out for Peaceful here.
Yeah, we definitely see some of that streamline in the deck. We see 2 Daishos and 2 Akarias as opposed to normally a split of 1 and 1 apiece. So cutting the Shadow and the Quarries and Stashes allows you to increase your numbers in certain places. Overall, the list does look very solid, so curious to see if it ends up working out well for Peaceful here. These are going to be 2 very opposing deck ideas. Armory might have a very tough time in this matchup just due to the fact that Juaspas is playing so many like token related creatures, which is I have to say I am a little surprised Peaceful isn't even including like a 1 of Stone Scar Maul. I always feel Stone Scar Maul very necessary in Armory to help deal with the token based players.
Yeah, for anyone who follows my stream knows my Armory hot take is that Stone Scar Maul is better than Daisho like 90% of the time. It's just like not play Daisho. But so not seeing it there is like really weird. It's definitely better than the second Daisho. I think it's very hard to argue that. I would argue it's also better than the first Daisho. But it's conspicuously absent. He's probably going to get hurt for it in this matchup because the Witching Hour deck just does a very good job of presenting a bunch of creatures. The weapons can't really pressure multiple creatures at one time. He's going to be heavily reliant on Harsh Rule, but Harsh Rule is frequently not good against this deck because it's so easy to refill the board. You just torrent of spiders afterwards. You have Xenon Obelisks to make those spiders big. You can follow up with Witching Hours. Like, there's just so many things that are very hard to beat. And if Juaspas ever gets to the point where he can Witching Hour, it's going to be hard for Peaceful to win.
Yeah, I have to say, like it is definitely like a weird. It is going to be a little bit of a weird matchup without the Stone Scar Maul, and Harsh Rule is certainly not the greatest card here for kind of how you're harping, what you were harping on about, and also just the fact that, I mean, when you're cleaning up 3 1/1s with the Harsh Rule, like, geez, that feels really bad. Like that's not where you want to be. Like Harsh Rule is best when you're taking out, massive boards or 2-3 really big units, but cleaning up a single assembly line like that can't feel but so good.
Yeah, and Xenon Obelisk is just going to be so hard to beat in this matchup. I mean, it's possible Juaspas doesn't draw it. Like, I played a bunch of Xenon Obelisk decks this week. There were certainly a large number of games where I never saw that card. But if Juaspas is able to see that in 2 of the 3 games in this match, Peaceful actually has no way to kill it in his 90. So it's going to stick around. It's going to make everything must kill, and it's going to be a huge problem for Peaceful.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious to see if we'll ever see Scrap Tank get out of control. Another important thing to note in this matchup is there is like some level of inevitability back and forth in this matchup, and I definitely feel like the Juaspas's FTS Witching deck has a much stronger lasting power through cards like Vault of the Praxis. I think Vault of the Praxis is going to be a super key card in this matchup for Juaspas to hit.
Yeah, what I encountered while playing a deck similar to Juaspas's was that you have like the best end game. Although I was playing Mystic Ascendant in place of Vault of Praxis, but at least that iteration had like the best end game I've seen of any deck outside of Bodekin. So you just like didn't lose the game once you got to like turn 8 and had stuff to do. You just like overpowered everybody. You had too much going on. Like all of your creatures were huge. You had to draw a bunch of cards. You just got a whole bunch of value from everything. So if Juaspas's deck plays in a similar fashion, which I'd expect it to as long as the mana works, if the later the game goes, the more it's going to favor him. Although one of the big weaknesses of this deck that I encountered was flyers. You are very weak to flyers. You're like on combust or bust. If Peaceful is able to get to an Icaria on turn 7 or even like turn 8, 9, it could very easily just run over the game.
Yeah, it is going to be a problem. And, real quick, Truedawn, since you have some experience with the deck, for the players and viewers out there who aren't too familiar, can you give me a rundown of Witching Hour as a card?
Okay, so Witching Hour is a 24 mana, 6 Shadow Influence spell that creates 4/4/4 horses, all with a different keyword. One has Killer, one has Death Touch, one has Flying, and one has Lifelink. And the cost of that spell is reduced by every card you play. And in Eternal, any card that makes creatures counts as playing those creatures. So Assembly Line, for example, is you get reduced Witching Hour's cost by 1 for casting Assembly Line, and then it makes 3 Grenadin, which also reduced the cost by 3. So Assembly Line alone reduces Witching Hour's cost by 4. Grenadin Drone reduces it by 2. Every time Ephemeral Wisp comes back, it reduces it by another 1. Scrap Tank reduces it by 3 because it makes 2 1/1s. So you have all of these cards that, when you play them, reduce Witching Hour's cost multiple times to get it to a point where you could actually cast it. And that's the whole idea of the deck.
Yeah, so under, some hard to hit, but not too unreasonable circumstances, it's very possible to see Witching Hour is, what would you say, about turn 8?
8 is roughly where it comes down. If you hit Influence. And it looks like we finally are jumping into the game between these two players. So we have to see. I think that the Witching deck is really cool. We'll see if Juaspas gets punished for being a little bit more greedy with the mana than I was, or if he gets paid off for it.
Yeah, and I really hope that we can see a Witching Hour come down. I mean, that's just such a cool card. Like, I'm absolutely in love with the card from a design perspective. And I would like to see it at least get played here. I don't necessarily need him to win the matchup, but I do want to see the card come down. We do see Peaceful with a pretty good start here himself, though. I mean, he's hitting a lot of power, which is a little bit unfortunate, but, we do at least see the Rakano Artisan coming down for him. Juaspas on the other side of the table. He does have some very important cards to start the match with. Grenadin Drone, Assembly Line, and Torrent of Spiders, all very big role players, as you were describing just a moment ago.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the Witching deck is that you can just play out these 1/1s, and unlike the Callus deck where you kind of need them to stay in play, you need to stack them to accrue value, just playing them already accrues value by reducing the cost of your Witching Hour, which is such a powerful card in and of itself. Just having the ability to cast that is worth it. So even if he can just keep playing like the Screta Drones, assembly line, and even if they die or they trade with whatever, it doesn't matter. They've gotten value.
Very true. And I think we've seen, and I'm going to try and keep a running total for the viewers out there. I think we've seen 5 cost reduction until now, and that was an additional 4. So 9 cost reduction total. So Witching Hour down to 15 already as early as turn 3. So quite a bit of progress has already been made for Juaspas. He just really needs to find Witching Hour itself. And we do see he has 5 of his 6 Shadow Influence already.
Yeah, I encountered the influence to be the big roadblock on the cost, not the actual cost. Sometimes it was the cost that mattered, but getting the influence was the biggest roadblock.
Yeah, and Ephemeral Wisp, every time it comes back, counts as another card being played.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so that's also very important, a huge recursion engine. We see Peaceful go ahead and pick up Ikaria, the Liberator. Going to be very important. That's going to be his win condition in the matchup. So assuming he can get there, that will help him out quite a bit. Curious to see if he fires off the Harsh Rule here, and in fact elects not to, as I think he's trying to deny that Ephemeral Wisp. Or at least force Juaspas to overextend here.
And here's the cool thing this deck does. So he can just keep chipping with these 1/1s, not really do a lot. And if the board gets swept, he could just Torrent of Spiders, refill the board. And then we do see Scrap Tank. Scrap Tank is great. Now this will probably necessitate the Harsh Rule, and he'll just follow up again with Torrent of Spiders. But if he's able to get this Ikaria in play next turn or even the turn after, that is something that immediately puts Juaspas under pressure to draw Witching Hour to use the Killer Horse to kill it. But that only works if he has Obelisk in play. So this Ikaria is likely going to be a huge problem.
Yeah, it very likely will be a huge problem here. Juaspas going to need to find some sort of gas pretty quick. Witching Hour, if he finds it, is already playable. Its cost is very, very far down now. I couldn't give you an exact count, even though I said I was going to, but we just saw it get its cost reduced by 5. The Scrap Tank was another 4, so that was 9. There was already 9 cost reduction on it. The Ephemeral Wisp was another 1, so I'm pretty sure it's down to 6 already.
Yep, and he does the influence, so if he top decks it, he can cast it. Xeon Obelisk is very good, so that makes it so any Witching Hour does have the ability to kill the Ikaria with the Killer Horse. And just to see if he wants to Torrent of Spiders here just to put on a bunch of pressure, because he kind of needs to race his Ikaria now.
Yeah, I actually would have liked to see him forgo this Torrent of Spiders here, because this does make Peaceful inclined to Harsh Rule, and he does have the Auric Runehammers to reset. He was actually already going to be under a 2-turn clock anyway that was likely going to kill him. But either way, Juaspas going to need to find some units here. Does find an Ephemeral Wisp, which is good. The fact that he has the Obelisk and he has Ephemeral Wisp in his yard means that basically no draw is really super dead for him right now.
Yeah, this Wisp will keep this. If he floods out, the Wisp will keep the hammer in check, which is why I liked extending out into the board, because if you force them to Harsh Rule their own Ikaria away, you're kind of cool with that. You have a follow-up weapon check with this Wisp. If you draw Witching Hour, you're in super good shape because they're down 2 Harsh Rules. So I don't hate it. You definitely could have taken a different path, but I'm okay with it.
Certainly true. And we do see the Grenadins coming down here out of the assembly line. And I mean, this might be enough to just close the game out here. I feel like Peaceful wants to go get interesting. He went and grabbed Ikaria. I honestly might have considered grabbing that 14/14 Throne Warden to give yourself a little extra life and some extra armor, so it makes your weapon a lot stronger here, instead of just trying to soak it with these Grenadin, because even when the Ikaria comes down next turn, it does put him under a 2-turn clock. But if Juaspas had any type of follow-up here, Grenadin, Drone, Scrap Tank, Witching Hour, really anything, you were staring down lethal. And in fact, he's still staring down lethal.
Yeah, he's just dead. Yeah, it's because the thinking there would normally be, if your life total wasn't under such duress, that you would take the card that you know is not on top, because tutoring in Eternal doesn't shuffle your deck. everything stays where it is. So you know that Throne Warden is the next creature or weapon you're drawing. So you would want to draw that and something. So that you think the Ikaria makes sense in that regard, but his life total was under such pressure from like those Xenoblist tokens that he just needed to live, and taking the Throne Warden there would have facilitated that.
Yeah, that is an important part that the deck doesn't shuffle, which would mean he probably didn't want to get the 14/14 Throne Warden, but he probably should have grabbed the other Throne Warden, one of the 4/4s. That way, he did increase his life total and also, put a unit on board that still would be able to eat those tokens. Either way, though, we do see Juaspas bringing down game 1 with the FTS Witching deck without actually even needing to.
Yeah, the deck is not reliant on Witching Hour. Witching Hour is just a really cool payoff. Like, a large number of the games I had success with the deck just did not involve Witching Hour. You just played things plus Xenobelisk, and that's good enough, because Xenobelisk is absurd. But then the games where you do draw Witching Hour, it's just disgusting.
Yeah, it's absolutely going to be devastating. I'm sad we didn't get to see it played, but I mean, even then, like it shows the power of these go wide 3-faction token strategies that you are able to just you just can flood the board. And Obelisk, I mean, it's exactly what you said multiple times today, Truedawn. Obelisk is just such a powerful card. It can allow you to play a wide variety of token-based strategies and let Obelisk carry your whole game for you.
Yeah. And as we move into sideboarding over here, we can take a look at what both decks have access to. Juaspas in his Witching deck has 4 Sabotage, 3 Slow, a lot of discard, 3 Suffocate, 3 Annihilate, and 2 Furnace Mage. I would expect actually some amount of the discard to come in. I'm not sure how you want to split it or if you want all of it. You probably don't like Combust is pretty anemic in this matchup. Everything is Aegis. So that's likely coming out, but I don't know what else you would side out. If you have enough cards to bring out, I'd probably bring in all the discard, because both Sabotage and Slow are all exceptional against the Armor deck.
Yeah, Sabotage and Slow will help out a lot. I mean, Armory, when you put their weapons to, 12, 8, like it does just, and Ikaria to 14, I mean, it's just absolutely backbreaking. So I do fully expect to see those cards coming in. On Peaceful side, I'm sure we'll see, interesting that he has an augmented form in the deck.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Kind of cute. I'm sure we'll see Soulfire Drakes come in, as them being able to fly over and present a quicker clock is going to be important in this matchup. Copperhall Bailiffs might also find their way into the deck. That way they can just neuter the tokens in the meantime.
Yeah, Copperhall Bailiff's like fine. It's like it'll alleviate some of the early pressure, but in general, like it's not going to matter, because either they're going to fuel a Witching Hour to come out, or they're going to have Xenobelisk in play. So unless you have something you really want to side out, like that's bad, which a lot of things are bad. Like most of his weapons are bad against the strategy. I wouldn't bring a Copperhall Bailiff, but if he has stuff he wants to take out, it's fine.
Yeah, it is one of those things where it's like it's fine. It's okay. It's not great, but it'll serve a purpose, and it'll help protect his life total a little bit. So I'm sure he has 1 or 2 cards he might have wanted to pull out there. Either way, jumping into game 2, Juaspas up 1-0 over Peaceful. Peaceful going to need to come back, and we do see a mulligan there. I fully support that. That hand was very, very unimpressive, and this one looks a lot better.
Yeah, just as a perfect curve, you just go like Artisan into either Copperhall Bailiff or Sword. There's a lot going on here. He's going to be able to blunt the early pressure, but unless he's able to like turn things around, like we talked about earlier, I'm pretty sure the late game favors Juaspas, with the exception of potential Ikaria stolen games.
Yeah, Ikaria is how the Armory deck wins here. If you're not playing Ikaria as the Armory deck here, you're not winning this game. Juaspas has so much leverage with inevitability as far as Vault of the Praxis, Obelisk, Ephemeral Wisp. There's just so many cards. I mean, Witching Hour as a card is just the finisher, but you have so many other cards like Scrap Tank. I mean, it's just Juaspas's deck has so many angles to attack from, and Peaceful is put in the position of having to try and answer all of them.
Yeah, and Copperhall Bailiff is pretty good there. It makes it so it can't trade with this Artisan. The Artisan gets to come through, but now the second assembly line, now the sort of Kari is bad. The 2/1 can't attack. The 2/3 can't really attack either. I mean, they have the Torch to blow out the multiple block, but on the side of Juaspas, you still probably want to do that. Although I guess not. Being a little bit more conservative, that's fine.
Interesting. That leads me to believe that he has an obelisk somewhere in his hand and he's playing towards it if he's going to hold them. And in fact, we do see obelisk come down. And yeah, now we're going to see a huge life swing here. We're going to see 9 damage coming through, and that helps even out the life totals quite a bit. Peaceful's going to have to fire off one of these harsh rules. Picking up a second one helps out a lot here, since he's definitely going to have to fire off this one right here, but he would like one, since it's very likely Juaspas is holding a card like Torrent of Spiders to go ahead and reload here.
Yeah, and that's the awkward spot in Armory, because if Juaspas just draws another assembly line or even a Greninja or the scrap tank, like we have to harsh roll again. And then the same thing is true for every turn for the rest of the game, that you have to harsh roll like anything they play, and you just don't have enough harsh rolls for that. So you kind of have to hope he just bricks off for a bit.
Yeah, Obelisk is just so powerful here. Like, it just gives him so much. We're going to see Greninja come down here.
With Vault of Praxis.
Yeah, with Vault of the Praxis to draw an additional card. And at this point, Juaspas's Witching Hour is completely online. I'm comfortable in assuming that he can very easily play it now if he draws the card. He's got the 6 influence. He's played Vault. He's played Obelisk. He's played a ton of tokens. It should be reduced in cost enough that he should be able to get it on the board. So, I mean, in the meantime, Peaceful is actually doing an excellent job of staving off the aggression from Juaspas, but it's what we've been, talking about multiple times in this matchup, is just the inevitability from Juaspas is so very real. He needs to hit a bunch of running power here to even give Peaceful a reasonable chance in this matchup.
Yeah, like pretty much anything he draws is potent. And we do see that the War Cry hits the Artisan as it does, as is standard.
Yeah,
but
so
it does represent a 3-turn clock, so he's actually not awful in this spot.
Yeah, he's not too sad about it, because it is the Fat Boy will hold the ground down for the time being, but that assembly line coming down is going to create an awkward situation for Peaceful. And I wonder if we can see Witching Hour come down. If Juaspas is holding it, he has to be able to cast it at this point. We've seen 3 assembly lines come down. That's 12 cost reduction. A Seek Power, Vault, and Obelisk is another 3 to 15. So that's already 9 cost, and he has 9 power. So
yeah, and there was a scrap tank and like other stuff. So.
Yeah, the scrap tank, Greninja drone. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, it's very interesting that we haven't seen the Witching Hour here, and it's going to make me sad if we go the whole match without seeing it, because like it's been so easy for Juaspas to actually get to the point where he can play it in both matchups. And now we're at the point where Juaspas is completely in control. Like, he's drawn so many cards. This Marison's Disciple is going to put down a 4/4 and a 5/5 and draw him another card. And Peaceful is basically stuck in the situation that we talked about, where he needs a harsh roll right here to even give himself a chance.
Like, you need a harsh roll like for literally every card they play. It's a horrible spot to be in. The matchup is just so good on the side of the Witching token deck. I don't know how the Armory deck's supposed to fight it. I mean, the answer is an Ikaria. You just have to kill them with Ikaria very quickly, but in the games where you don't draw Ikaria, you just don't have that option.
Or you need, as we talked about at the top of the match, you need that Stone Scar Maul. Stone Scar Maul is so key to beating token strategies. You have to be able to punch their life total through their units, because if he draws any type of weapon right here, it's just going to keep getting dead-ended into all these units. And Juaspas at this point is just comfortable continually establishing units. And now that the Ephemeral Wisp is down, Peaceful top decking another power. Yeah, he's done. He knows where this game is going. He knows that he has no chance of beating Juaspas. So Juaspas is going to take that 2-0 with a very impressive couple of games with the FTS Witching deck. And I must say, I am very, very sad that we did not get to see Witching Hour cast. But Juaspas winning that matchup, I believe he was 3-1, puts it at 4-1, gives us a good chance that he will be in the top 8.
Yeah, it's a really cool deck. I like it a lot. It's cool to see someone playing it. It sucks that we didn't see Witching Hour, but that happens. The deck has a decent amount of card draw, and actually it was probably like pretty unlucky you didn't see it at that point after drawing that many cards. But you didn't need it. Like, that's the cool thing about the deck, is you just play Xenobelisk plus whatever, and that's good enough, because Xenobelisk is absurd.
Yeah, and Xenobelisk really does just carry that. Very cool to see another fringe strategy coming out and having like a really great showing. Obviously, Witching Hour was a deck that did exist before, but that is very far away, I think, from the variant of Witching Hour that was played in the past. So very cool to see that one come down, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the old Witching Hour was Time Shadow Primal.
So the old Witching Hour deck was for one of the most broken decks to ever grace a card game. It's like up there with Cobblade, because that involved old Champion of Cunning, which gave everything flying in charge, and 5 mana Scouting Party, which reduced Witching Hour by 5 cost. It was also just an insane threat by itself. So you just played Feln and Champion of Chaos, or Champion of Cunning and Scouting Party and Witching Hour, and you would frequently just get Witching Hour to 0 cost and then play it with Champion of Cunning and swing for 30 in the air.
Jeez, yeah, that's just absolutely disgusting. A very cool deck, probably goes up there, like you said, in the upper echelon of very broken decks that have graced card games. Probably up there with early editions of Miracle Rogue and things like that.
Also worth noting that old Witching Hour got its cost reduced by playing Power.
Yeah, that is an important distinction too. Old Witching Hour would be reduced by Power. So like that game, for example, Witching Hour would have been castable as early as turn 6, and only because he would have had to have 6 Shadow Influence. If it was like 4 Shadow Influence, probably like turn 5, he would have easily been able to play it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a super cool card. People thought, like, after the nerf, people thought it was not really playable because there wasn't really a home for it. The cards wanted to play alongside it in multiple colors, and people didn't think it could make the 3-color deck work. But if you can make the 3-color deck work, you have all the enablers there. Everything comes together, and it's still really good.
Yeah, that's really what you're looking for, is just trying in a deck like what we just saw, the 3-faction Witching Hour deck. You're really just trying to find a way to not get too screwed on your power. That's really how you lose some of those matches. You can also lose matches, obviously, by them just out-tempoing you or playing a bunch of fat units, but it's very possible a deck like that could easily run over a lot of the field, and so far it's done very well today. Yep. We do have a backup match, though. We have Flash 2351 against TheSkeejay. TheSkeejay looks like he's on big Combri, and we've got Flash once again playing this fiery Combri deck. So a bit of a Combri mirror match, and let's check that out.
Yeah, and TheSkeejay has been playing Vodafone a lot, although it looks like, now looking at his deck list, he has cut Vodafone as just normal big Combri. But he's been playing some iteration of this archetype for the past several tournaments, so he's had time to tune it. Obviously likes it. And just Seraph get
Explorer
Emeritus is pretty good there.
Yeah, Explorer Emeritus is probably going to put in quite a bit of work for him as we...
If the harsh roll doesn't get his trigger pulled here, which is entirely possible.
Yeah, you probably have to harsh rule away here. Like, you can't afford any more Emeritus or Seraph activations, so...
There's so much value, like it's a random creature and a card every turn.
Yeah, it's that would just be too much for Flash to handle. So we do see the harsh roll coming down here. Unfortunately for Flash, though, he doesn't have a power currently to go with these Mystic Ascendants to really make them, absolutely insane. And on the other side of the table, TheSkeejay has a Martial Ironthorn, and we just see him cast a Find the Way. So he is going to be in no short supply of power.
Yeah, and getting up to the one-sided harsh rule ability of Martial Ironthorn is going to be really potent in this matchup. Even if Flash is able to put down the Mystic Ascendant, draw power, start getting value, he really needs to get to a point where he can have this stand together up as well, so he doesn't just get savaged by the Ironthorn ultimate.
Yeah. Interesting question, because I'm actually not sure. I very rarely have seen scenarios like this come up since, Martial Ironthorn doesn't often activate. Would a stand together protect against the one-sided harsh rule?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Okay. See, I'm not honestly quite sure with the interaction, because I just so very rarely have ever actually seen Martial Ironthorn go off. You either normally draw a concession before that, or you just never get there. Situations like what we just saw, Martial Ironthorn helps accelerate the power along to 12, but can't quite actually survive to get to 15 himself.
Although, now that we saw a Wasp trade with the Ironthorn, now, if Flash just draws a power for these Mystic Ascendants, these Mystic Ascendants can just, steal the game. Although the Seraph is also very good. Going long, getting an 8/8 there with some amount of text that may or may not matter is pretty good. But in any case, Flash really needs to draw power this turn.
Yeah, he really needs to find a power here, and it does suck for him because he does have a Seraph. Yeah, he's already played another one, as we see by the one in his graveyard or void rather. So he's got these Seraphs down that he's drawn clearly, but he's just like so far off of actually having them activated since he's only sitting at 6. Meanwhile, TheSkeejay is at 13, and he's comfortable to, activate Seraph and still have power left over to do whatever his heart desires.
Yeah, I mean, the Abraham Light's kind of power. Almost.
That's very interesting to see him play the power there. I guess he's going for the Seraph activation next turn, but I don't know about that. I feel like you need the Mystic Ascendant.
Yeah, you just need a 6/6 in play. It's almost the card draw is almost irrelevant. You just need a 6/6.
You need a 6/6, and drawing is certainly going to help you out as we go down. But I mean, if he doesn't, a
Interesting.
Jeez, that's going to be very powerful.
Being able to activate at the same turn.
Yeah, that would have been absolutely devastating. Navani, all the while, is going to go ahead and start these Warcry triggers. We got a Gene. I mean, Flash is the Fiery Combry deck, but you could convince me otherwise that TheSkeejay is actually the Fiery Combry deck based on all these Rakano cards I'm seeing.
I mean, I'm not sure why I would splash red for red cards. You could just get them off Seraph.
Oh, dude, it's so much better when you just actually pull them in. Like, who needs to play other colors when you can just end up playing 4-color decks?
Yeah, and this it's just so insane that he's going to have a Seraph and a Najin activating every turn. It's just so much pressure and so much value. The Sword of the Sky King might be good. It'll be able to kill one of those two, but I think it's just too much value has been gained. It's too much.
Yeah, Flash is going to have to hit a Harsh Rule here off the top and Harsh Rule away this madness and then start to reestablish with his Mystic Ascendant and Sword of the Sky King. And yeah, again, Fiery Combry, man, who needs to actually play the Fire Sigils when you can just get the Fire units regardless?
Yeah, just all the double-colored Rakano units. What's left? Artisan, Ikaria.
Yeah, not too much. I mean, if we see Ikaria, that's just going to be bonkers. And it's actually kind of interesting that he goes ahead and puts the armor on Navani. I mean, it did leave him open to a double block, but I feel like you could have easily just stuck the 4/4 armor on the Silent Seraph and then swung in with the 8/8 and the 7/8 and just created a situation where your opponent's going to kill one of them, but they're definitely taking a bunch of damage either way.
Yeah, and unless the Seraph hits a Relance. Oh, hit the humbug. Oh, that's unfortunate. It needed to hit a top 5% outcome, and we just have a lowly humbug.
Yeah, we've got almost what is the worst outcome. Probably one of the bottom 5 outcomes
Shout
total.
Out Idol of Deathstrand.
Yeah, Idol of Deathstrand. What are the other big ones that come in?
Conduit.
Dune Phantom, pretty bad. It would at least block, kind of, but yeah, Copper Conduit's the other one that dies. You are correct. This is looking real bad, though. I mean, TheSkeejay can pretty much just crack this Gene on something right here and just start spacing, and I really don't think Flash is going to have any way out. In fact, just does
skipping the middleman, jamming. And I assume that Flash still has some number of Harsh Rule in his deck, so if TheSkeejay doesn't have Stand Together, which he doesn't, that's a way out of this. So game's not over.
No, certainly not over, but very, very close. Flash is going to have to have hit Harsh Rule, and not hitting Harsh Rule right there is going to bring this one to a close. I'm unaware if, this was in fact game 3. So, unfortunate for Flash here not to hit the Harsh Rule to, give himself a chance out, but TheSkeejay with some amazing Seraph hits, deciding that he wants to be the Fiery Combry deck, and telling Flash that to step aside. Let me show you how it's done.
Also worth noting, Navani essentially didn't have text. No creatures were ever drawn past the Warcry 4 on the deck.
Yeah,
or Navani.
Yeah, another showcase of Navani being completely useless. That's often how I feel about that card. I want her to be so good, but and part of me is just selfishly wants her to be good because she's the only legendary. Well, one of the only legendaries I've cracked a full set of. I've never crafted any, but I have a full set of them, including I think a premium one that I pulled out of a pack.
That is a good card. It's just that there's no home for her because you need to play her in a deck where Warcrying your deck matters, which means you need to be playing like Rise to the Challenge or Card Draw or just a slower deck to see more cards that matter.
Yeah, she's in a very weird place. Like, you really don't want her in Rakano because, like you said, in order to get full value out of her, you need the game to go longer, and that's one thing Rakano doesn't generally want to do. Like they're the Armory Rakano certainly, but you're not playing Navani in that deck either. Like the aggro deck can't really afford to play Navani because the triggers just so often are worthless. Like regular Warcry units are generally just as good.
Yeah, that's usually the case. So that's why it's weird to build with her. She's just in an awkward spot.
Yeah, certainly. I'm curious if we'll ever see some sort of like Rakano control style deck that makes some use of a Gene, actually.
I've been playing a Gene in Rakano Plate, and it's been excellent. Like, you need more creatures, and so Gene's a creature that generally in the Rakano Plate deck, if you just untap with, you win. Because you just get like another 4/4 weapon for free, and she just runs over the game. She makes it so everything you draw, they need to kill. It's essentially just 3 mana Seraph, or like 4 mana activation cost Seraph.
Yeah, and her stat line, unless I'm mistaken, right, is like 3/2.
Yes, it is base 3/2, but
yeah,
in Rakano, like base stats don't matter a lot because you just have like so many things that augment them in the form of weapons and Warcry triggers and what have you. So
yeah, certainly. I was just thinking about her viability since she does get hit by Torch, but I think we've definitely seen a slight downtick in the number of decks playing Torch currently.
yeah,
but by at least some amount.
Seraph is in the mold, or not Seraph, Ajin is in the mold of creatures that are very easy to kill, but if you do not kill them, you lose. So that's essentially what's going on.
And there are definitely a lot of those in Eternal. Seraph, another great one, although I wouldn't put Seraph as easy to kill. Dies to Suffocate, and that's it, is pretty good. Stray into Shadows also hits it, but as we've kind of talked about today, Stray's in a very awkward situation right now, given just kind of how the meta itself has been playing out with slower decks kind of taking over.
Yeah, certainly.
But unfortunately, folks, we don't have any other backup matches. The good news is we only have one outstanding match right now that I believe is either on its third. Yeah, I believe our last one on game 3. Yeah, round is up. So we are going to take a very short break. Do not go anywhere, folks. We will be right back with coverage of round 6 of the Eternal Tournament Series.